Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we're going to talk some of the betting odds for the Philadelphia Phillies, some player awards, some win totals, a lot of fun stuff, and there's some interesting lines when it comes to your fightings. We'll break it all down on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I am your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years, credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Shout out to Gametime, the best way to buy your last-minute tickets for any sporting event. Now, today, we're going to jump into some lines on the Philadelphia Phillies 2023 season. There's some interesting numbers out there, and of course, I'm using my FanDuel app here to go ahead. Shout out FanDuel, partner with us here at Locked On. Using my FanDuel app here to talk through some of the lines that they have set. Now, the last time I looked at this was pre the Rhys Hoskins injury. So I'm very interested to see where everything goes. But let's start with win totals and look at what we've got going on. So the Philadelphia Phillies regular season win totals, it stayed the same. It has not moved since the Rhys Hoskins injury. So I guess that's a good sign considering this team is not all that deep at first base, but there are other options. I mean, that's a good thing. The fact that their win total hasn't moved since the last time I checked it before Rhys Hoskins' injury. But the Phillies win total is at 88.5. Now, for perspective on that, 88.5 is the Philadelphia Phillies win total. The New York Mets win total is 93.5. And the Atlanta Braves win total is 95.5. So they've got it right now that the Phillies are 7 games worse than the Braves. And 5 games worse than the New York Mets. That doesn't feel right to me. I don't know about you. That does not feel like a right margin between those teams. Could you argue the Braves are better? Absolutely. Could you argue the Mets are better? Absolutely. Could you argue the Phillies are better than both of them? I think absolutely. I think it's a pretty big toss-up for the division this year, and I don't see a 7-game gap between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. I don't see it. And I don't see a 5-game gap between the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. It's a weird win total. And the Philadelphia Phillies last year, without Trey Turner, with Bryce Harper missing a month, which I know that's on par with what you're going to have happen this year because of his Tommy John. He's going to miss more than that, actually. But they won 87 games. And that was with a late season collapse. Like, they could have easily been a 90-win team. The last 2 games of the season in Houston against the Astros, they didn't even try. They put out basically minor league lineups because they'd already clinched the playoffs and there was no need to waste anybody. So I see this win total and I see 88.5 and I say, 2 games more than what they won last year for the over? That's crazy. Especially considering that the schedule this year has them playing the NL East even less. Last year, they were playing so many games against the Mets and the Braves, and the Mets absolutely owned the Philadelphia Phillies last year. Now you play less games against them, and your win total is only slightly better. I frankly don't understand how the win total isn't right around 90 to 91 wins. I have a prediction, and I'll have to see if I can find these numbers somewhere. But I believe that when the season starts, when opening day comes around next week, the Philadelphia Phillies over on wins is going to be one of the top 5 most popular win total bets in Major League Baseball. It seems like a complete oversight on Vegas's part for setting the line where it is. 88.5 is just so low. There's so many ways the Philadelphia Phillies can get over that. Like last year, think about the stretches they went. They started on a god-awful stretch. They fired a manager. They couldn't win a game for like the first 2 months of the season, or I guess couldn't win a series. They were just not consistent. They'd win a game, they'd lose 2. They'd win 2 games, they'd lose 1. There was no way to like track how they were playing with Joe Girardi. And Rob Thompson obviously turned it all around, but now Rob Thompson has a full year with this team. You have Brandon Marsh now in center field as opposed to Matt Vierling. You have Trey Turner at shortstop as opposed to Didi Gregorius. I mean, Alec Boehm's better. Jay Chiramito's just as good. I don't know what you're doing at first base, but like the outfield is improved over last. Like the starting rotation is improved. Taijuan Walker is going to be a huge part of this. Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola are going to be really good again this year. I don't look at this team and say they're only 2 wins better than last year's team. I know last year's team went to the World Series, but they transformed in the playoffs. They weren't that in the regular season, outside of maybe the month of June, and that was Kyle Schwarber just hitting nukes left and right. But I don't get it. I don't get why the line is where it is. And what I would advise you to do, always gamble responsibly. And this is just my personal advice. I don't know. I don't know for sure. And don't bet the mortgage or anything like that. But I would head over to your FanDuel app. And I'd take a look at that win total. And I'd say, man, that over looks really, really good. Now, the other teams, when I'm looking at the Mets, over under 93.5 wins. And I'm looking at the Braves over under 95.5 wins. And I'm seeing 2 teams that were 100-game winners last year. I say, well, all 3 of these teams might have, as I smack my microphone, sorry about that. All 3 of these teams might hit the over. I don't know. There's a possibility that the Phillies win like 95 games and the Braves win 97 and the Mets win 96 and the Phillies come in 3rd in the division and they clear the win total by 7. Like, it's going to be a very interesting division. For my money, it's the best division in baseball. I think the AL East has a bit of a claim to that as well. But these top 3 teams are just so. And I guess the NL West maybe a little bit would have. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else good out there besides the Dodgers and the Padres. The Rockies stink. I don't know. For my money, the NL East is going to be the best division in baseball this year. Super stacked lineups for the top 3 teams. The Marlins are pesky. We don't need to mention the Nationals, but let's take a look at those other teams lower down in the division's win total as well, so we can get a general idea of what you're looking at as far as competition in the division. So let's find the Miami Marlins. They're over under 75.5 wins. They're more than 10 wins below what's going on with the Philadelphia Phillies. Not a threat at all in the division. There's clearly a top 3 teams. And all the way to the bottom here, the Washington Nationals. Jesus. Over under 58.5 wins for your Washington Nationals. I'm tempted to take the under. That team is terrible. And they've got issues with ownership, and they've got a really tough division that they're playing in. So, yeah, stack wins against the Marlins and the Nationals. There's not really going to be a lot of parity with the bottom 2 teams in the division. It's going to be the top 3. And we knew that from the start. When our NL East preview comes out later on in the week, on Tuesday, I believe it's coming out, you're going to see that there's a very clear hierarchy in the NL East. But those top 3 teams, to me, they're interchangeable. And maybe I'm saying that because the Philadelphia Phillies are being projected to be the 3rd of those 3 teams, and it's wishful thinking. But I really think that the top 3 teams in the NL East are interchangeable. And those win totals, I think they should be tighter. And I think the Phillies should be higher. And when I look at that, I say Vegas is really undervaluing the Philadelphia Phillies at 88.5. So I think last year the thing was it was 86.5. They hit it by 1 game. So pretty darn good estimate last year by Vegas, but it wasn't over. So let's see if the Phillies can cash the over again this year. Coming up, we're going to talk MVP odds. Who are the top players? Who are the top Phillies that could potentially take home the National League MVP? And are any of them worth a bet for you? We'll discuss as we continue Locked On Phillies. Let me tell you about the app that's absolutely ruining my life in the best way because I can't stay off this thing. I need you to go ahead and check out our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Baseball GM. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an MLB GM and managing your professional baseball franchise, well, your dream can come true, and this game's definitely for you. You can manage every aspect of your team, every single strategic aspect down to like the last little bit. I mean, you can get uniform contracts. You can get sponsorship deals. You can sign international players, free agents, trade for players, bring up minor leaguers, send down major leaguers, put the best possible team on your field, position switches. All these types of things are what you can do. Coaches and staff. You got to hire the coaches and everything so you can go out and get your very own Kevin Long or Caleb Cotham. Rob Thompson as well, because you're the GM in this one. There's so much that you can do in this game to go ahead and navigate through the life as the GM of a franchise. It's challenging. It's not like it's super easy. You can't just like sign the best players like it's a regular video game and just set the settings up. No, it's challenging. It's fun. It's realistic. It's completely free, which is one of my favorite parts about it. And it's playable offline. Play on the go as you want to and when you want to. So go ahead and check out my friends over at Ultimate Baseball GM, and Locked On Phillies listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise, which really helps you get started when using the promo Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. I also want to tell you about the Gametime app, okay? The Gametime app's absolutely awesome. What is the Gametime app? Why is it so cool? Why is it so different than all the other ticketing sites? Let me tell you, I don't even need my phone to tell you this. This is so easy because it happens to me all the time, and I'm sure it happens to you. You wake up, the birds are chirping. It's Sunday. You're probably hungover. You're like, man, it's like 10 a.m. I got to go drink off this hangover somewhere. The Phillies play the Mets at 1 o'clock at Citizens Bank Park. I got just enough time to wake up and put myself together to get in the parking lot before I get in the seats and get some hot dogs. But it's 10 a.m. Sunday. Everyone's already sold their tickets. Who's selling their tickets? We didn't plan this out. I didn't plan on going that hard Saturday night. Let me hop on the Gametime app and find a great seat or a great couple of seats for you and your buddies to go ahead and check out the Phils, watch them beat down on the Mets. It's absolutely great. Buying tickets to your favorite events, it shouldn't be stressful. You should be able to do it hungover in bed. And Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. I'm so excited I can't talk, with just such great deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee. So you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Here's the deal. Listen, forget planning months in advance. You get like flash deals on special tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, more stuff. Anything you can think about going to, they got it on the Gametime app. And the Gametime guarantee means you're always going to get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Not 100%. No, you're getting more money back than what you spent. That's the Gametime guarantee. So it's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. You get images of your seat before you buy tickets in a matter of seconds, couple of taps, and you're all set. They are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Listen, Gametime app's so easy. Oh, okay. You want me to do more for you? What do you think? I'm a miracle worker? Well, you can snag the tickets without stress with Gametime. And also download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On MLB for $20 off. So I can even give you a free $20. There you go. You're welcome. Thank me later. Subscribe. And that's how you can thank me. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. All right, let's talk MVP odds. Of course, Bryce Harper, the last Philadelphia Philly to take home the National League MVP. Is there another one this year? Well, I'm looking at the odds, and there's some interesting stuff going on here when it comes to the National League. Now, your odds-on favorite to win the MVP, large odds-on favorite, 400 points above everybody else. Juan Soto is plus 550 to win the award, followed by Mookie Betts at plus 950. That's a huge gap. I guess they're expecting a huge year from Juan Soto out there in San Diego. Ronald Acuna Jr. plus 1,000, Fernando Tatis Jr. plus 1,000. So the juniors come in at plus 1,000, even in a tie for third. And then in fifth, Trey Turner plus 1,100. Now, you want to know something funny about Trey Turner? I looked at this a couple days ago. Last week, I took a peek at it, and he was like 8th or 9th. And now he's up to 5th. So you know what that means? A lot of people saw Trey Turner's World Baseball Classic performance and jumped on the line and said, let me throw some money. I think it was like plus 1,400, and it's bumped him up to plus 1,100. So the World Baseball Classic has affected the way people view Trey Turner, and I'm sure it's affected the way the people view the Philadelphia Phillies, which is a good thing for Phillies fans and for the organization. But yeah, I never thought the World Baseball Classic could influence the MVP odds. Not race, really, because they haven't done anything yet. They haven't even played a regular season game. But the MVP odds, as much to bump a guy like Trey Turner 3 spots because he hit 5 home runs in the World Baseball Classic. But, hey, he was really good in that tournament. He was Captain America. I know Mike Trout was technically the captain, but he was the best player on that team. Trey Turner was. So, deserved. I think that's a solid bet to throw a little bit of a flyer on for Trey Turner, especially with Rhys Hoskins out. He's going to have to shoulder more of the load. Sorry if you have a lot of background noise. It's like freezing rain and windy as anything outside. I'm supposed to go outside in a not looking forward to that. I might just do this podcast all day. But anyway, I think Trey Turner is a solid flyer bet. I don't feel as confident in it, obviously, because it's an individual bet, as I did on the Philadelphia Phillies win total and the over on 88.5. But I think that at plus 1,100, you could do worse for the odds, and I think he's got a good look at winning it. Listen, Joel Embiid might win the MVP in the NBA this year. How nice would it be to have back-to-back seasons in Philadelphia where there's an MVP awarded for Philadelphia teams? That'd be great. It'd be a nice trend, unlike the trend of losing championship games, but we don't need to talk about that. Now let's go further down. We're scrolling down the list. Who's the next Philly? Kyle Schwarber's down here, plus 3,500. He's the next highest Philly. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He is 14th on the list. Now, he led the National League in home runs last year. He strikes out a bunch. He doesn't play great defense. It's weird to me that he's as high as he is. And some of the other names that are on this list, Paul Goldschmidt, Austin Riley, Pete Alonso, Matt Olson, Francisco Lindor, are the 5 guys right ahead of Kyle Schwarber. And the guys behind him are Xander Bogaerts, Michael Harris, Jazz Chisholm, Ozzie Albies. There's a huge drop-off between the 5 ahead of Kyle Schwarber and the 5 after Kyle Schwarber. And I guess that means it makes sense where he's at, but I don't really have him in the same category as some of those guys like Goldschmidt, who won the award last year. Austin Riley, who's super talented for the Braves. No knock on Kyle Schwarber. I just don't think he's a versatile enough player to win an MVP award. But I don't know, man. He hit a nuke off of Yu Darvish in the World Baseball Classic final. He really figured some stuff out down the stretch last year. With Rhys Hoskins out, Kyle Schwarber's going to have to be the RBI guy in this lineup until Bryce Harper comes back. So that's a lot of opportunity and responsibility, which sometimes can lead to success. So I don't know. It's a good thing to look at with Kyle Schwarber as potential MVP odds. Guess who's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots behind Kyle Schwarber? Bryce Harper is plus 8,000 to win the MVP, tied with JT Realmuto. So they're right down there as well. So the Philadelphia Phillies have in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. In the top 20 players in the National League for MVP, the Philadelphia Phillies have 4 of them. I believe, let's see, Albies, Harris, Olson, and Acuna and Riley. Yeah, the Braves have more. The Braves have 5, but the Philadelphia Phillies have 4. That's second most of any team in the National League as far as players in the top 20 for MVP. It's a stacked team. It's a top-heavy team. The depth, maybe it's questionable, but man, the star power on this Philadelphia Phillies roster is unreal. And that's why the Mets thing is so weird to me. I'm looking at potential Mets players that are on here. Pete Alonso, 1. Francisco Lindor, 2. And that's it. They have 2. I mean, now Verlander is 21st in odds for MVP. As a pitcher, he's not going to win it. But the fact that they have a pitcher coming off an American League Cy Young award, and now he's pitching for the New York Mets, I mean, that can't be overstated. But the Braves have 5 players in the top 20 for MVP. The Phillies have 4 players in the top 20 for MVP. The Mets have 2 players in the top 20 for MVP. And you're telling me that they're 5 wins better than the Philadelphia Phillies? That's nuts to me. That's why I think the Philadelphia Phillies win total is being drastically underrated at 88.5. I think they're a 91, 92 win team conservatively, and that's post Rhys Hoskins injury. So go ahead and look at that. Now let's scroll down and see if there's any other Phillies worth mentioning on this list. Aaron Nola, plus 15,000 if you want to take a flyer there. He's let's look at pitchers. Verlander's the top pitcher, right? So 1, 2. Yeah, Aaron Nola has the 3rd highest odds out of any pitcher to win the MVP in the National League. So that's a good sign. Nick Castellanos, plus 15,000, same odds as Aaron Nola. These are just listing names, because, like, I don't know, Chris Bryant's down here. Sean Murphy's down here. Jeff McNeil's down here. Like, that not worth putting a bet on any of those guys. Just interesting that they're indeed listed. Now, let's see, besides MVP, we have National League Cy Young, too. I want to go ahead and look into this real quick. It's interesting. Aaron Nola is that high on MVP. Cy Young, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He has the 8th best odds. He has plus 1,300 odds. Zach Wheeler has plus 1,600 odds. Your leader in the clubhouse for National League Cy Young, Sandy Alcantara, plus 500. Your defending award winner down there in Miami, Corbin Burns, plus 550. Verlander and Scherzer, the duo up there in New York with the Mets are 3 and 4. So those guys are really going to have to carry that rotation. Not a lot of depth, but that top two, really darn good. And the Philadelphia Phillies have nice two guys on there. Let's see. Is Ranger Suarez on this list? Taijuan Walker listed higher than Ranger Suarez. I guess they have the same odds. He's just listed first. But Taijuan Walker and Ranger Suarez both plus 15,000. Where's my guy Andrew Painter? No, I'm kidding. Andrew Painter's not going to be on here. But that's interesting for the Cy Young. And let's do one more here. National League Rookie of the Year and see if Andrew Painter is even listed. He is at plus 6,500 odds. He's way down there now. The injury, I'm sure, super affected that one. But he's still listed, which gives you a chance that he's going to pitch for the Philadelphia Phillies in 2023, which is what we've heard from Dave Dombrowski. So there you have it. Some odds on the Philadelphia Phillies. And I'll tell you one more thing that I think is going to be a really, really good bet coming up as we wrap up today's Locked On Phillies. I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel, though. The tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to, $1,000, a grand. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line, the point spreads, to which team will be cutting down the net, all of that good stuff. Some huge upsets last night. There have been upsets every night of this darn tournament. So you can bet on the underdogs, make some good money on the odds. That's the way to make your money. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with our friends over at FanDuel. Okay, I told you about the win totals and 88.5 with the Philadelphia Phillies, and I think that's super low, and I think you should bet it and bet the over. Not a empty the account bet, but like a pretty solid bet in my mind that the Philadelphia Phillies are going to win 89 or more games. Well, let's say this. Let's say the Philadelphia Phillies win 88 games. Let's say they win 87 games. Let's say they win 89, something in that lower end of where I have them finishing, which I think it's realistic to say they're an over 90-win team to me. That's just one man's opinion. But, hey, if you remember, I nailed the win total on the nose last year. 87 was my projection. 87 was the final win total. So take that for what it's worth. I'm darn good at what I do. The Philadelphia Phillies, to make the playoffs in 2023, they have the 9th best odds in baseball. You're defending NL champions, NL pennant winners, went to the World Series, was 2 games away from winning it against a juggernaut Astros team. You can get them at minus 195 to make the playoffs. Now, that's not great odds, okay? So, for example, if I go ahead there and I place a $10 bet on the Philadelphia Phillies to make the playoffs, you're going to win $5.13. So, it basically pays out 1 to 2. So, or 2 to 1. I don't know. You get what I'm saying. If you put $10, you get half back. If you put $100, you get like 50 and change. I would bet that, and I would bet that heavy. There's no way the Phillies don't make the playoffs this year. Mark it down. Old takes exposed me. There's no chance the Philadelphia Phillies don't make the playoffs this year. That is basically free money. Go ahead and put money on it at minus 195. Do it before the season starts and they jump out and play really well at the start of the season because Trey Turner's amazing. Jump on it now for them to make the playoffs. I mean, if you want to hold off and see if they go on a little bit of a slide in the first month and those odds get better, you can. That might be a prudent way of doing it, but I'm telling you, Phillies are making the playoffs. That's an awesome bet. Go ahead and lock that in right now because even though the odds are you're getting minus money, it's just such a sure thing to me that they're going to make the playoffs and that 3 teams in the NL East are going to make the playoffs, and maybe even parlay Braves, Mets, Phillies, all to make the playoffs and make some extra money there. And that might be how you boost the odds a little bit. But the Phillies are a lock playoff team. Don't even think twice about it. We know that's a thing. We know that this team's too good to not make the playoffs. They're way better than last year's team. Just don't overthink it. Bet the Phillies to make the playoffs. Bet the over on the win total. Maybe throw a flyer on Trey Turner for MVP. That's how I would handle your season-long bets with my friends over at FanDuel, of course. And go ahead and check out FanDuel, as I told you about earlier this episode. Check them out. Give them some love. You can get that bonus bet if you're a new user, so maybe go ahead and use that on one of those bets I just gave you. put $1,000 on the Philadelphia Phillies with the $1,000 back in bonus bets. You're not risking anything, but you're not risking anything anyway because the Phillies are going to make the playoffs. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now I want you to make your second listen of the day Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Fantasy baseball season is coming up, and you can win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thanks for checking in on Locked On Phillies. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing on the YouTube. I appreciate all the continued support. And I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.